Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah. Welcome. Okay, let's take a seat together and we'll dive in to our practice time. By the way, before we get underway, anybody who is struggling with how to sit for meditation, if you're just not sure how to adapt or create the circumstance for you where meditation feels easeful and grounded, your hips and pelvis are actually comfortable, there is a yoga therapy clinic about this tomorrow at 4 p.m. PST. And you can see it on the website, either urdhvafoundation.org or sarahjoyyoga.com. And what we do in a yoga therapy clinic is you come and there are assistants there to give you one-to-one attention, individualized support with my guidance. So I'm setting up the clinic. I will demonstrate, discuss, take a look at things, and then you get to work with somebody one-to-one in a breakout room. I come by and I see what's happening, and then we go back to the main room, and then we get to do it again until you're more confident that you've gotten the material for that particular clinic. We've done shoulder stand, headstand, pranayama, which we're going to repeat so that others can come to those. And tomorrow is your meditation seat. Coming up on the schedule, I think, is insomnia, also your HPA axis, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And there's a clinic coming up. I'll give a shout out to this for some of you. It's on ADHD and ADD. So take a look at that and see how we can be of help to you. Okay, let's embark. Please take your seat. You can rest your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And come into your plumb line, this kind of central channel that we often talk about. We are in the fourth niyama, and it is called Svadhyaya. And it means to study the self with a capital S, to study the self. Allow your breathing to deepen as if your breath could be like an usher, bringing you to your seat at the theater. Let the breath act in this kind way to show you where is your seat in the center. The quality and smoothness of the breath. Also, where does your breath happen geographically? What is the pace of your breathing? In observing, we're not also analyzing or judging. We're just coming into relationship with. Just coming into relationship with. You picture yourself as in the center of this plumb line. And as I said yesterday, kind of asking for the most invasive thoughts or the most distracting thoughts, those pinwheels in the mind. Ask them to stretch out a bit and to give you some breathing room so that as you set those a little farther out, those pinwheels in the mind, those parts of you start to see you sitting in a kind of internal leadership. Ask us to pay particular attention to one of these, what we call the 6 stations of the mind, to one of them, which is the station about the self. It's where we have this radio broadcast about ourselves, an internal broadcast system that's telling us what to do, what not to do, what we did wrong, what we could have done better. Kind of like variations on self-critic, self-pressure, self-demand, those kinds of tones. So ask that particular station to move out a ways, to give you some breathing room. Start breathing more spaciously in your body, imagining the self, capital S. So like your inner divine self or your wise self, supported by that larger divine presence. In fact, one and the same. You connect to that larger wise presence or divine presence, and you've asked this little bit of a harassing self to move out at a distance, you might wonder if it's a kind of either or. Is it either I'm caught up in that kind of thinking, or I'm in this divine presence? And I'd like to propose that there is a kind of mediator inside, and this is the self that helps us to do things like self-acceptance, self-appreciation, self-advocacy, self-agency. This is a self that we're developing at the third chakra. It knows how to put insight into action. It knows how to practice discernment. This aspect of self can tell when we're in criticism versus when we're actually in discernment or growth. This discerning aspect of self knows when we're in perfectionism or when we're simply having important values or standards for ourselves. Those things are different. This discernment knows the difference between self-negating, and which we might think of as giving everything away to others, self-dismissing, self-negating, the difference between that and service, being of service. So connect to this kind of mediator self. You'll know the difference between the self-critic and this self-advocate, because the nervous system will feel different to you. And the mediator is bringing you back home to this divine self or wise self, what we called yesterday, the Atman. The self-critic, that's taking you away from divine self, self-agent, self-advocate. The mediator is bringing you towards that. So please bring your hands together at your heart. And we'll chant Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu. Let's begin. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Savidyam Karavai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidveshavai. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sanau Punakto Savidyam Karavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Videshavai Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Punakto Savidyam Karavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Videshavai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. With your exhale, as you bow your head to your heart, acknowledge the divine Atman, the self, capital S. Also acknowledge your mediator, the self-advocate, self-acceptance, self-appreciation. And in the distance, you can acknowledge the self-critic, the channel of the mind that goes into all those unhelpful thoughts about yourself. Release your hands and remind yourself that you're here to practice developing that mediator and reducing the inner critic, because you're going to come to understand its origin, not because you're going to shove it down like a jack in the box. We're also going to be developing, with the help of the mediator, this sort of middle ground. We can develop our connection to that divine self, which is compassionate in its nature. Its native expression is loving and benevolent and divine. So we want to have a sense of these relationships, like the furthest point, the middle point, the home ground, like that. Okay, you'll need a yoga strap for class this morning. Where's my yoga strap? Oh, it's up here. Please bring your yoga strap and come up to standing. With your yoga strap, you can make a loop in it so that it is as wide as the shoulders, like this. And then you can put your blankets aside. I will store mine on the shelves. And as you rise up to standing, let's take this yoga strap behind. Place your hands in there. So you're going to put your wrists into the strap. The palms can face each other. And in this situation, what you're looking for is that your hands and arms are going to be shoulder width apart. Place your feet so they're hip distance wide. And then squeeze the arms back. Lift your chest and heart up. Raise your collarbones slightly. And root down into your tailbone. So please don't exploit the lower back. We want to have a sense that the lower back is supported from the inner belly on the front side. I have to click a button on the screen here. Pardon me. Where's my mouse? Oh, there we go. So don't exploit the lower back. And now let the breath come into the back and the sides of the waist as you sustain the action of the arms. Lift the sides of your chest and the heart in the center of the chest. Lengthen up through the base of your skull, the roof of your mouth, and the crown of your skull. Imagine you're standing in this plumb line that connects you back to the divine. We study Svadhyaya, means to study the self, the nature of the self, capital S. What is that self? What are we actually? And exhale, release your arms, catch the strap in one hand. And as you watch the sensations go down the arms, deeply relax your mind. Bring the strap around in front. Please put your right hand in the strap and put it so it's around your hand and you've got your thumb free, so the strap won't slide down your wrist. You can take it up overhead and reach back to hold the extra part of the strap with your left hand and pull back. Now, as you raise up with the right arm, use the resistance of your left arm to ask a little bit more robustness from your right arm. Reach up with your right hand facing across to the left side of your room. Again, root down through your tailbone. Don't exploit the lower back. Breathe into the back and sides of the waist. Lift your heart and the sides of your chest. Raise your collarbones and then begin to lift up and look up without exploiting the lower back. Come into a little bit of a feeling of a back bend in the heart. And breathe in, raise yourself up to center, which is going to be vertical. Float your right arm forward and down. Deeply relax the mental broadcasts as you just watch the right arm, all those sensations. And then take the left hand in the strap, raise it up overhead, reach back and hold the tail of your strap. When you apply that pressure with the right arm giving resistance to the left, make the left arm more robust, more enthusiastic. I have another student in the class. There you go. Okay, so when you're reaching up like this, turn your left palm across the midline. That means that your left hand faces to the right side of your room. Root down through your tailbone. Broaden your low back, the sides of your waist. Lift the center of your heart. Lift your collarbones. Begin to make a standing back bend, keeping everything in integrity. Reach up, you may look up. And then inhale, raise up to vertical. And as you exhale, release your left arm forward and down. And then take the strap in both hands. So put both wrists into the strap this way. I just took the strap and put it around my hand because I don't want it to hit me in the face. Okay, then take both arms forward and up. Stand tall in your plumb line. Let's root the tailbone down. Broaden through your back waist and the side waist. Lift up through your heart and begin to look up and come into a slight back bend in the upper back. So one aspect of Svadhyaya, of course, is to notice all the incremental ways in which we want to fine-tune the physical pose, not because the pose has to be perfect, but because it gives us a relationship with our body parts. And to create ideal or optimal alignment gives us better energy flow for prana. So sometimes we're kind of shoring up a leak in the garden hose. Other times we're adding energy or enthusiasm somewhere. Maybe asking one part to do a little bit less and another part to do a little bit more. And as you next inhale, come up to vertical, hold the strap with your hands like that, and bend the elbows. Let's take the strap to the base of the skull. Widen your elbows apart. Use the strap to lift and to support the base of your skull as you come into a standing back bend again. Notice the lower back. So we really want the back bend to be in the heart. And now you get to notice little mental gremlins, things like, is that all I can do? Should I go further? How could I be so weak? I'm so amazing. Can't believe I'm doing it. You know, all the ways in which we talk to ourselves. And I'm going to ask you to keep your attention instead of that chatter, to keep it on the breath and the body. Now, keeping your head where it is, release the strap to go back overhead. And then inhale, rise up to vertical. Release your strap down in front and catch it with one hand and let both arms dangle. Momentarily just stand really still in mountain pose. And see if you might connect to the mediating self that could have some appreciation for your efforts right now. Or that mediating self that practices self-acceptance, self-honesty. Now please make your loop smaller and put your right hand in the loop so it's just your hand in there. Take a stance, not quite the widest stance, but maybe more like your horse stance, like you're riding a horse. Take your right arm up, please. And apply tension on the strap with your left arm. Almost like you work at the airport, you know, and you've got the orange cones, flags in your hand to tell the airplane pilot how to back the plane up. Something like that. Okay, root down through your tailbone, stabilize your legs, and then arc up and over to your left. Now this hand, if you want to, you can wrap the strap. It might make it easier for some of you to hold it. And the left arm is pulling out and down. The right arm is resisting that. Please keep the hips centered so you're not going to move your hips to the left. No escape hatch there, please. You may be able to turn your head to look up past your right arm. Keep the base of the skull lifted, tailbone grounded. Notice how you move towards your threshold where you can actually be in the yoga of your yoga pose. Exhale, use your right low belly to come up to center. Release your arms down. Change the left hand to the strap. Raise up. Maybe you're going to wrap the strap around your right hand. Like you work at the airport. Inhale, reach up, and keeping your hips stable, arc over to your right. Listen for all the important, even the small cues from your body. As you rotate your head to your left, lift the base of your skull, root your tailbone, and listen for where you sense you're actually in the yoga of the pose. And that might mean that you back off a little bit in the pose and recruit the kind of stabilizing that your body would need. So there's no sense of exploiting one body part for another. And then exhale, use the left low belly, raise up and float your arms forward and down. And pause again to come to mountain pose and just let there be this total relaxation, particularly of that inner critic, the one I've asked you to put out at a distance. Let it totally relax. Bring in your appreciation self, your self-acceptance self. Now, once more, take the strap and make it into a loop where it's going to be shoulder width apart. So some of these poses, you're going to find that you have these incremental places where you do exploit one body part for another, or there's a strong part that takes over and a more fledgling or weaker part that's like, hey, thanks, except it's getting injured. So take notice of those things that you discover in your own body. Self-acceptance does not mean like self-abnegation. We don't decide that, oh, I accept everything completely, therefore I stop growing, or I make messes of my yoga practice because I'm just basking in acceptance. Self-acceptance means we note our limitations, we work with them wisely, we bring in our self-advocate, like, okay, how can we mediate between these body parts or these actions to have wise experience in the physical body? Take the strap behind. And this time, as you raise up through the chest and the heart, with the arms back, let's take the feet so they are hip distance, one leg length apart. So kind of for Prasarita-Padottanasana. Squeeze back, let the tailbone come forward. Let the thighs come a little forward in line with your toes. Reach up through your heart, open your throat. As you squeeze the arms back, notice the strength of the shoulders. The shoulders should not feel like the elbows are doing the job of the shoulders. Now tone the inner thighs and the inner arches. Bring your hips back in line with your heels. Bring your torso up and over and come down to this variation of Prasarita-Padottanasana. Take the arms overhead. Squeeze your shoulder blades up towards your sacrum. Relax the weight of your head. And breathe in, not the self-critic, but the part of you that can practice self-acceptance, self-appreciation, and even what I'm calling self-advocacy. You know where the end range of your yoga is in the pose, and you can advocate for yourself to live in that yoga pose right there. Listen for the smooth sound of the breath. It's one of the indicators that you're in your yoga zone. Your next inhale, glide your heart forward, tone the inner arches and your inner thighs, rise up to standing, catch the strap in one hand, and once more, please come into mountain pose. Relax your eyes, your mind, your tongue. Don't look to see if there's anything wrong with you. Listen for what is already intelligent and beautiful. Okay, let's put the strap aside for right now, and please reach for 2 blocks. Place them at the top of your mat, which I'm going to call the short side of your mat. I don't have the same mat that you have, mine is round. Step forward. Hi, little student. Would you like to do a demonstration? Sure. Okay, so please come up to mountain pose. Are you going to stretch your claws on the carpet? How's about if you head out for playtime? There you go. See you later. No, go on. See you later. Bye. 2 days out from her spaying surgery, so she's a little bit wonky. Okay, bring your hands together at your heart, please. Let's drop the tailbone again and expand the breath into the back and the sides of the waist. And as you inhale, raise your hands up like an arrow. Look up, please. And then exhale, press the arms wide. And as you come forward, imagine that you're clearing out the sphere of your mind with that gesture of the arms. And now inhale, glide your heart forward. Lift the base of your skull. Exhale, take the left toes straight back. Press into your right heel. Inhale, rise up into your crescent. And exhale, open the arms like the letter Y. Use your shoulder blades to lift the heart into a little back bend right here. That same feeling of back bend from standing. We do want the tailbone still to feel grounded. It should not feel like you're exploiting your lower back. And then inhale, bring your head to level, look forward, raise your arms up. And exhale, big circle of the arms, clearing out the mind. And inhale backwards, please, to downward dog pose. Exhale forward to plank pose, tone the low belly and gaze straight down between your thumbs. Lift the base of your skull. Notice the smoothness and the tone of the breath. So observe the quality of your mind as you get here. Do you feel patient and intrigued with plank pose, or striving and bored, or whatever's going on? If you come to your kind of mediator self, you could practice appreciation for the strength of your body or the developing strength of your body. Let's press the 2 feet isometrically towards each other, wake up the inner thighs, and then lengthen the tailbone again. Lift the base of your skull and broaden your shoulder blades. So these little actions bring more aliveness to the pose, and hopefully that brings in more your mediator self and less your critical self. Step over 1 foot at a time and transition to seal pose. Press the tops of your shins down, roll the shoulders back, open your throat. And then exhale and glide your heart forward, shoulders back, bend the elbows, come down to cobra pose. Keeping the legs energized and the tailbone rooted, slide your heart forward. And then inhale, press back up to seal pose. And exhale to plank pose. And use your mediator self to stay alive and present to plank pose. Then reach back to downward facing dog. So your mediator self, remember, it wants to bring you closer to the divine, not closer to the critic. And that critic has habits of saying things like, this pose is boring or dull or too hard or too soft, all those sorts of things. When you next exhale, bring your left foot forward. Press into your left heel, rise up to your crescent. And open the arms like the letter Y. Notice the smoothness of the breath and where you're feeling the back bend in your body. Keep turning your palms to face each other. You can turn the crease of the elbows towards the ceiling, or you might even feel like you could turn the crease of the elbows a little bit towards the back wall. And then inhale, bring your head up, bring your arms up, level the upper torso. And exhale, let's go wide and down. Inhale, step forward, please. And exhale for a deep and satisfying bow over the legs. The inhale, rise up, upward hands pose. And exhale, hands to your heart. Deeply relax your mind. You might momentarily reflect on where your mind has been and ask for your wise mediator self to come in with discernment. Choosing things like self-appreciation, self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-agency. You want to actually make a difference in your own life. Resume the Ujjayi, and let's inhale, raise up like an arrow. Exhale, bow forward, Uttanasana, clearing the sphere of the mind as you come down. Inhale, glide forward through your heart. Raise up to your fingers, lift the base of your skull. Exhale, left toes straight back. Inhale, rise to your crescent. Notice in crescent that your hips, generally speaking, they face both headlights face forward. So keeping that forward action on the pelvis, take the left inner heel and slide it down behind you to virabhadrasana 1. It's like a slight angle for the back foot. It's going to change also very slightly where you feel the hip flexor stretch. Now check and see if you're in the zone of your yoga. Is your stride the right length, front to back, left to right? If you need a slight adaptation, go ahead and support yourself so that you're in your yoga. And this time, as you look up, hook one thumb behind the other. And raise up the arrow of your intention, moving more towards the self, capital S, and less towards the self that's habitual, critical. Next exhale now, sweep the arms out wide like the letter T. And as you gaze forward, I'm going to ask you to keep the back heel really grounded. Reach back and interlace your fingers. Roll the shoulders back. And with the back heel as a taproot or an anchor, bow your torso forward. Keep the front leg really stable. Raise your arms up towards the ceiling as you relax your head. Notice the smoothness of the breath. That is within your means to cultivate. Smooth breathing is like self-advocacy or self-agency, acting towards the betterment or the improvement of your experience or your yoga. Let's raise the torso up and please place your hands on the 2 blocks. Press firmly down. Inhale to plank pose. Press the inner edges of the feet towards each other, even though they're not touching. Notice the inner arches, inner thighs. Find your tailbone. Broaden the back of your heart. Lift the base of your skull. And then reach up and back to downward dog pose. And exhale, left foot forward. Start with the back heel lifted. Rise up to your crescent. As you come up, then keep the hips facing forward. You're at the airport again, directing airplane traffic. Keep the hips facing forward and take the right inner thigh, right inner calf, right inner heel down. As you look up, hook one thumb behind the other. So the hands are hooked together like an arrow. This is called virabhadrasana. It's a warrior pose. And these warriors were bow and arrow archers, so they knew how to aim. As you next exhale, float the arms wide out to a T. Bring your gaze forward. Reach back and interlace your fingers. Change the interlace of the fingers by 1 digit. So it'll feel a little unusual. And then keeping the back heel really grounded, let your torso come forward. Relax the weight of your head. Raise your arms up towards the ceiling. You're probably touching the left thigh, but we're not resting on it. You could gaze back towards your right heel as a place to focus your eyes. And then raise your torso up to what you think of as like horizontal to the floor. Place your hands on your blocks and inhale to plank pose. Press the 2 feet towards each other in plank pose, kind of isometrically. Find the tailbone. Broaden the back of your heart and lift the base of your skull. Step over 1 foot and then the 2nd foot and come into seal pose. And then cobra pose. Slide your heart forward. Keep the tailbone anchored. Inhale, press back up. Seal pose. Exhale, plank. And then touch the knees down and reach back to child's pose with your hands still on your blocks. And in this child's pose, take the hips as you can back towards your heels. Rotate your shoulder blades wide around your rib cage. Turn the triceps in towards your nose, so the biceps roll towards the ceiling. Lift the base of your skull, so your head is not falling towards the floor. And then walk your hands back towards your knees and come to virabhadrasana, which means thunderbolt pose. Ideally, your hips are sitting on your heels, but that's not possible for everyone. So as I said yesterday and in other classes, of course, sit up on a couple blocks or sit up on a chair on the front edge of the chair. Deeply relax your mind and imagine again, you're asking that inner critic self, the part of self that is like distracted, anxious, critical, pressured. You've asked that to move out at a distance. And it's actually watching you practice right now. In some ways, that inner critic is going to feel reassured as it sees you having internal leadership. In other ways, the inner critic is going to feel frightened that you will no longer need them. Come back to the mediating self that can have appreciation, encouragement, even confidence. Okay, with the 2 blocks ahead of you, please step your right foot forward. Curl the left toes under and raise back up to the basic lunge, which looks like this. And then take the back heel and turn it sideways like you would for warrior 2. Let's put both blocks on the inside of the right leg. And I'd like you to make the right arm firm against the right shin and the right knee. Now what you can do is decide if the right hand is too low or too high. You can change it, and what you can do is discover as you go, and you can always make a change. So if you can take the tailbone down towards the left heel, and you feel like even the left butt got more toned, if that was possible, and you can take the right outer hip and wrap it under in the pose. If you have a sense that your right thigh can rotate externally, which means you're rotating it outer thigh down towards the floor. If those things are good to go, then also turn the lower belly, mid belly, chest, and heart. But if any of those first actions was hard, raise the block that's under your right hand. And raise it with full support for yourself to have a positive experience of yoga. Let's take the left arm, wrap it around behind the small of the back, please. Place the left hand around the top of your right thigh, if you can reach it. Broaden the lower back. So we don't wrap the arm around the lower back and exploit the lumbar spine. We have to keep our integrity there. With full integrity in both legs, as you next inhale, rise up to warrior two. And then inhale, raise both arms in warrior two. And let's exhale and windmill down, right hand, left hand. Place the right block to the outside of your right foot and step backwards, plank pose. And then left foot forward for the same thing. You can come back in, you just can't tear at the place. Okay, turn the right heel sideways. Hi. Hi, honey. It's okay, you can play with the strap, but you can't tear the mat and the rug to pieces. No. Okay, take the left block inside your left ankle, please. Place your left hand firmly down and connect to your tailbone. Check and see, are you able to lengthen your tailbone down towards your right heel? Can you tone the left outer hip? Do you feel like you have access to that? The left thigh rotates externally. So that means that the outer thigh is rolling down towards the floor. And if you discover that you need more support, raise the block under your left hand. And then turn your lower belly, the mid belly, the chest and the heart. Wrap the right arm around behind. And some of you are going to be able to put your right hand really beautifully around the top of your left thigh. And others, we're not going to reach that far around. So it's a good chance to practice staying in your yoga and also to use your mediator self, not to go to the inner critic, but to remind yourself you're practicing yoga to connect back to this. Atman is the word we use in yoga. So keeping the legs really stable and strong. Let's inhale, raise up to warrior two. And then raise both arms up. Kind of like when you see a bear in the woods, make yourself bigger. So if you see the inner critic on the horizon, make yourself bigger. And windmill the arms over. Let's take the left arm and then the right. You can put the blocks on either side of your front foot. Please pick up the back heel and step once more to plank pose. And then touch the knees down and go once more to virabhadrasana. Let's see if you can sense this relationship between divine self, capital S, mediating self, the one that practices self-appreciation, self-acknowledgement, and then sort of critical self, which is in the distance. Hi, divine self. Hi, how is your belly? Oh, I know. You had major surgery. Yeah, you did. You did. You're going to be okay. Yeah. You were very brave. There you go. Okay, please bring a couple blankets onto your mat and have your yoga strap close by. Let's take at least 2 blankets to sit on for this one. We're going to work with some of the poses in the hips and pelvis that you might see some of these in tomorrow's clinic about the meditation seat. So first give your blankets to your kitten. I haven't even sat there yet, so they're not warm. Can I have my seat back? I'm just going to take it back, okay? There we go. All right. And then bring your yoga strap, please, near enough that you can have, you're going to make a big loop in the strap, pretty big loop, because you don't know yet how much loop you're going to need. So then set that to the side and place the left foot inside. This is called Siddhasana when you put the knee like that. Place the right foot on the outside. So you have the pubic bone and then left heel and then right heel like that. And then the kitten goes on the right over here like this. You might have to borrow one. No, do kitten things. We're going to do yoga things, okay? Okay, let's take this yoga strap and put it around your right ankle and your left thigh. Okay, so you have it looped there. It's going to be coming across the top of your thigh here. Currently, the strap is large, and you have a tail on your strap that you're going to be able to snug up or tighten. So this is what we do. You're going to wrap the right arm around behind, and you want to be able to secure your right hand in a snug strap. So if I make this a snug strap, that means I pull the strap until it's taut right here. And then you wrap around, and you need enough space for this strap to be there for your right hand. Okay, cross your left hand to the outside of your right thigh. Now, as you roll the right shoulder back here, and you're holding onto the strap with your right hand, do bring the right shoulder and upper arm back, but make sure that the ribs feel toned. So the twist is in the vertical column of your spine. You're not displacing the rib cage like a crooked lampshade. Look over your right shoulder. Close the eyes. It's in the plumb line that you sit in, coming back to the divine self, the Atman. In the foreground now is your mediating self, which provides assurance, appreciation, acknowledgement, compassion, motivation, clarity. In the distance is the habitual or critical self. That one provides the anxiety, the pressure. Next exhale, release your twist. Place your hands out over your knees, or one hand on your kitten, one hand on your knee. The right arm may be having that temperature change that comes with the recirculation. Take the right leg out straight to the side, watching out for fuzzy kittens with shaved bellies. Okay, right leg out to the side like that. This is a pose called Janusirasana. Okay, rotate your torso to your left and slide your right hand down your right leg. Let's do the best you can to keep the left hip grounded, please. And turn from the lower belly, mid belly, upper chest and heart. To the extent that you're able to, rotate your gaze to your left and then raise your left arm. And you really have to practice your discernment here. Remember that discernment is a function of the third chakra. What you're discerning is, are you in the zone of your yoga? Or are you bypassing that zone and going into striving or pressuring yourself? Even if your pose looks more like a mini yoga pose, the yoga that is there is more powerful than the yoga that appears to be there when we're striving or pressuring ourselves. In the left hip grounded, please exhale, rise back up, keeping the left low belly toned to bring yourself up. Release the left arm down. Okay, now let's bring the right knee up like this. You can keep your strap because we're going to use it again in a few moments. You probably need a block. Since we're up on 2 blankets, a block would be wise. Cross your right ankle over your left knee. And then place the block at the height that your leg needs it to be at. And some of you are going to find that your knee goes down maybe level with the other knee, so your block might be flat like that. That won't be my experience yet. So we're all going to sit upright in this kind of inner integrity and appreciation. And then allow for any exploration forward to which your body is really saying yes. So we don't have any attitude here that you've got to push your body through these things. The word tapas does mean discipline, but it doesn't mean push through to the point of injury on behalf of some yoga goal. So come into this with a sensitivity for your body. Notice that with sensitivity and grace, there is like a slight change, a deepening, maybe an evolution in your yoga pose. You raise yourself up to sitting. Now here's the opportunity. You can take the strap around the right foot, make the loop bigger. Okay, so the loop is going to be at the ready for the right hand again. So an option here is the block for your leg. You could like I still have my ankle at this strong ankle position. For some of you, you could actually put your right foot up on lotus pose. So if you're going to do that, you're going to point the toes. You're going to put the top of the foot onto the crease of the thigh. And that means that your foot is able to be there really comfortably. It's not jabbing into your left thigh. It's not like a painful jackhammer experience. It also means that your knee and your hip are comfortable with that decision, right? And then you've got this around the top of your thigh, the top of your ankle. Wrap the right arm around behind. Place your wrist into that loop. So the strap is actually around the wrist like this, the right wrist, and then cross the left hand over your right knee and please twist to your right. Now, when you have your right wrist in the strap behind you, put the right hand on your blankets, on the floor, on the block to support the twist, and use the tension of the strap to roll the right shoulder back and to twist the spine like you're going up on a barber pole to the right. And have a little bit of a back bend feeling in the heart. Exhale and come around to center. I'm going to share with you now one of the great secrets of yoga. Lotus pose. People often wonder, can they do lotus pose? Should they do lotus pose? Let's say this is my end range right now. This is my hip surgery from September. So here I am. The left foot is up. The left knee is up. Even if I take the right foot out from here to try to get it ready to pick up and put over, I can't lower my left knee far enough to make lotus pose a reality. So I wouldn't want to try to take this leg up over this leg, requiring so much from the other hip. So on this side, lotus pose is not for me. However, if you're somebody on the other side, I'll show you, let's say that you can put your foot up like this and this knee lowers down to the floor. Well, then you have the clearance. You can sense that you'd have the clearance to put the other foot up and over on there. So there are mechanical recommendations in this case. So let's change sides so that your right foot is on the inside and the left foot is on the outside. So inside, outside like that. Take your very large loop. And by the way, you do not need to know how to do lotus pose to come to the clinic, and you don't have to do lotus to do meditation. We're not all designed for the lotus pose. Okay, so you've got your loop, wrap the left arm around behind, hold your strap, bring the right hand across. There you go, and twist to your left. Remind yourself not to exploit the rib cage, and that you're practicing these kinds of twists to really connect again to the central channel, the central experience of the divine self, the you that has always been there, radiant, unbroken. When you hold your left hand in the strap and you've wrapped your arm across the small of your back to get there, naturally you're going to start noticing some circulation impedance down the left arm. We are impeding that on purpose, temporarily. With your exhale, please unwind. Rest your left hand out over your right, hand out over the knees. Notice the sensations in your arms. Now take the left leg out. The strap is irrelevant in this pose, but we're going to keep it there. You might need a block on the side. So we'll take the left hand and slide down the left leg. Please keep your right hip grounded. And as you're walking down, you can ask yourself again about we could use the word integrity. Are you in your integrity in the pose? You might turn your head up towards the ceiling. You may take the right arm past your right ear. Listen for the threshold of your yoga. So you're kind of in that zone. You're not waiting for Shavasana to experience yoga. We aren't waiting for meditation and just having like a little Hershey kiss size yoga. Use the right low belly as you exhale to bring yourself up from this anchor. Release, and we will probably need a block here. Let's put the left foot up on the right thigh. Again, you want to place it first in this kind of figure 4 position. Sometimes this gets called fire log pose. So make a strong ankle and support your knee at the height that you need it to be. Sometimes if you put the block a little further out, but at the same height that it was on the other side, it's a little bit lower. Sometimes you choose to make them equal, like while rehabbing one hip, treat the other hip the same. You can come whatever amount your body says yes to for coming forward. And there has to be that yogic yes, not just like, yeah, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. Like the bath water's too hot, too hot, too hot. And you're turning pink and thinking, is this a good idea? That's not usually a good idea. So same idea here. And how your mediating self can keep sort of guiding you back away from the inner critic self towards the divine self. This is actually a bit like mental training, a little bit like puppy training. You have to keep demonstrating the leadership inside to come back. Please raise up to center, and you're going to decide where you'd like to place your left foot. You can put it inside the strap, and some of you will choose to put it in a kind of lotus position, which is called Urdhva Padmasana, means half lotus. And you've got your strap here. So make the loop large enough that you reach the left hand around behind you. The left wrist is in the strap. Your left fingers can be on your blanket, the floor, or a block. Walk the right hand across for your twist. Sometimes the inner critic starts to notice that you're not going to be employing them so often, that you have a new mediator on board, and that you need this inner critic less and less, even though we thought we needed it, we actually don't need it to motivate us. Motivation is intrinsic. Criticism is not inherently motivating anyhow. We want to come into this relationship with the mediating self so we can come back home to the divine self. We do want to then touch that apprehension, angst, or critical part and find out what has been needed there. What is it? What is its etiology, and how can we understand it? When you exhale, please come around to face forward. This is your yoga strap. And anybody for whom half lotus feels comfortable, you can come down to sit like in meditation on the ground. That might not be everybody's comfortable seat, and that's okay. Some of you have asked questions about this, so there's a little response for you. And then let's unwind the legs and put aside your strap, please. Come onto the floor. Take your two blankets, a little bit like you'd use them as if they were a bolster. Then take your two blocks and place them beyond the blankets for your heels. Reach for your strap, and we're going to make this loop so we have the feet will not flop off the blocks. You can lie back. Okay, and tuck the shoulder blades under the heart. So that position just gives a very slight elevation to the legs. And as for some people, it's easier for their legs to be slightly elevated like that. For the pelvic tilt, in Shavasana. It's not that your lower back is going to be flat on the floor in Shavasana. It's not. But we don't want it to be hyper extended, so it's not excessively curved. And this little elevation can help some of you. It's also a gentle current of circulation coming back towards the heart and the head. Imagine the inner critic is actually feeling kind of relieved. You won't need to recruit them so much. They see this inner strength that you're growing with your mediating self. The inner critic is also thoroughly relieved to see that your divine self is still here. You've squeezed and soaked and stretched and moved your body in specific ways. Let your body deeply, deeply relax now. Be profoundly at ease mentally and physically. The process that your body's doing right now, it does best when you don't intrude on it. Allow your mind to stay at home here in the present, in your body. Mind and your body to become more and more harmonious, more deeply still. You're resting in the inner presence now. Allow for deeper and deeper relaxation now. All the broadcasts of the radio mind can fade to silence. Allow yourself to go deeper again, releasing the mind and all mental activity. Stay quiet. Roll your head side to side. Wiggle the fingers, the toes. Without busying the mind, bend your knees. Put the strap aside. Roll to your side and return to your seat. Your seat, make it a comfortable arrival. You can sense now this kind of lighthouse, this channel we call Shushumna, connects us to that inner quiet divine. And you have your mediating self that helps to move your life towards greater discernment or clarity or vitality. And the mental pinwheels of the inner critic, may they have quieted down. Raise your hand to your heart. All beings everywhere have access to a practice, a community, some teachings that help them to return to the divine self. May we then live more harmoniously with ourselves and also with each other. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. We'll close the recording so we have a chance to be together.